Hello, my creative friends. My name is Cheryl, and welcome to the Stamping Squad. I have a really pretty card for you today, and it's using the tea set from the new annual catalog. So I can't wait to show this to you. I've made a few of these cards, and I will show you some more examples at the end. But for now, let me hold this up so you can see it a little better. Isn't that pretty? I think it's gorgeous. I love this set. I love the entire suite of products. I do want to mention that if you do not have a demonstrator, I would love to be your demonstrator. And if you need a catalog, please contact me and let me know. All right, let me show you some of the things that we're going to be using today. We are going to be using these cards and envelopes. It's a set. It comes with 20 cards and matching envelopes. It's in the in colors and it coordinates with the Tea Boutique set. So we're going to be using that. It's a great value, by the way. 20 cards and envelopes for $10. And I love these. It just makes card making so easy. We're also going to be using this stamp set, the Cup of Tea stamp set. Actually, I have it right here, so let me show you. This is it. So we're going to be using some of the stamps from this set. We're also going to be using a couple of the dies from this set. So there's a look at the dies. The two that I'm going to use today I have pulled out, but I'll show them to you in just a little bit. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to use is one of the card bases and an envelope from that set that I just showed you. And I chose the Tahitian Tide because there are 20 cards and envelopes. There are 4 in each of the new in colors. So today we're going to look at Tahitian Tide. And let me show you the pieces of cardstock that I cut to add to that card base. This is a piece of Tahitian Tide cardstock. It measures 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. Then I have a piece of basic white cardstock. It's 2 3/4 by 4 inches. And the last measured piece I have is just this strip of designer series paper. It's 1/4 inch by 5 1/2. And this is from the 2022-2024 in color 6x6 designer series paper. It has sheets with all the in colors in there. So I just put a little, took a little piece off of one of those sheets. All right, let's move those out of the way for just a minute. You will also need a scrap of the coordinating. In this case, it's Tahitian Tide, the coordinating cardstock, and then just a little scrap of basic white. All right, so first, I'm going to take this stamp of the teacup, and I'm going to take my Tahitian Tide. So I'm going to be doing a tone-on-tone look today, and I turn to that fairly often because I just like the way it comes across. You can see the design, but it's not too bold. And so I'm just going to stamp that on this scrap of cardstock. There we go. And then, let me set that aside. Then I'm going to take Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to use the stamp that is a lemon. So cute, lemon slice. And I'm going to ink that up, and then I'm just going to stamp that on my piece of basic white. There we go. Easy peasy so far, right? Okay. Then what I did for my cards, I took these 2 images and I took these 2 die cuts, this one of the teacup, this one of the lemon slice, and I ran it through my emboss machine, and through the magic of video, voila. Here we go. This is what came out. So that is what I'm going to use on my card today. All right, let's do a little more stamping on this white piece. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment, take care of yourself. And let me find my ink pad here. I'm going to use Calypso Coral, and I'll show you why. I'm taking a cue from this envelope. This is Calypso Coral, so that's what I'm going to use for my sentiment, and it will also be the color that I use for my flowers on this card. So I'm just inking up. I haven't used these stamps today, so I want to make sure it's inked very well. And then I'm just going to stamp this pretty close to the bottom of my cardstock and hold it in place for just a moment. There we go. Take care of yourself. That's a nice sentiment, huh? All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to stamp the greenery that is peeking up out of the teacup, and I'm going to use Garden Green for that. That is one of the colors that is in the paper that goes with this set, so it coordinates nicely. So here's my stamp. You see the sprigs of green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my teacup and I'm going to position it on here where I want it in the end. So right about there should be good. And then I'm going to ink up my stamp, and then I'm going to move this down a little bit, but it will show me where I need to stamp this. All right. Because if I just stamp it in the center, it's actually going to be off a little bit because the opening for this teacup is shifted over to the left just a tiny bit. Okay, inking up with Garden Green. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit. And that looks about right, so let's commit. Let's commit with our Garden Green. There we go. All right, and so in the end, when I put this teacup, that's going to be just perfect. The greenery is all fitting inside the opening for the teacup. So let me put this away. And now I want to stamp the flowers. Again, I'm using this Calypso Coral because that was a color on the envelope, and I got kind of messy there with my block, but let's see if I can do this without getting a bunch of ink on my image. So I'm trying to do this without getting in the frame, getting my head in the frame. So let's just go here. I think that's going to be about right. It's kind of nice, actually, these flowers, because they don't exactly line up with the greenery. So they're just kind of hovering over it, so you don't have to worry too much about being precise there, which I like. I like that. Okay, now let's start putting some things together. So I'm going to go back to my card base here, and I'm going to use my bone folder on the crease here just to make sure that we get a really good crease on our card. Then I'm going to take this piece and glue it on here. So for that, I am going to use my liquid glue today. You can use tape adhesive if you like that better. It's so funny because sometimes I watch some other demonstrators and it seems like people really do have a preference for which type of adhesive is their go-to. For me, it's the liquid glue for sure, because liquid glue is a little bit more forgiving because I don't always get things centered the first try. So the liquid glue allows me to move things around just a little bit if I need to. And I appreciate that. Okay. Just make sure which direction my card is opening. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had it turned this way, get it all decorated, and then realize it's opening the wrong direction? I've done that. Yes, I have. So I'm going to try not to do that today, though. That's our little secret. I'm sure none of you have ever done that. And my glue is kind of running out a little bit. Okay. Now, let's put this on, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it to center it. There we go. And these little dots that are running up and down are actually kind of helping me make sure that I have that on there straight. Great. Okay, now, I love how this is coming together. Such a cute idea. All right, now we need to put our teacup on, and I am going to use some dimensionals for that. Put one in these corners, and one at the bottom. And then I'm actually going to take my paper snips, and I'm going to cut a little piece off the edge here, because I just want a tiny piece to go over here on the handle of my teacup. I want something to support that, so it's not just kind of hanging out there waiting for something to grab a hold of it and pull it. So there we go. Now let's get this on. I think that looks good. Let's go right about there. Great. All right, now we've got our lemon that we want to put on here as well. And so I'm just going to take one of these dimensionals, and the lemon is going to go right here. So I'm going to put this dimensional kind of right there, because that's going to be sitting down on this white spot. But this teacup, remember, is lifted up. So then I'm just going to put a dab of glue. Let me take the backing off that. A dab of glue right here. So that's going to adhere right on top of my teacup and hold it in place. Okay. There we go. That is adorable. I love it. I love it so much. Okay, now let's see. We've got one little bit. Let's do this first. I'm going to come back and grab my little strip of Designer Series paper and put it on the inside. And I'm just going to come over from that center crease a little bit, and I'm going to put it right there. So I do need just a tiny bit of glue. And, you know, when you're working with things that are quite small like this or kind of fine, I just barely, I mean barely, put some pressure on my glue so a little bit comes out, and then I have the tip of the glue actually touching the paper, and I'm just kind of spreading it around. So we don't want to put a huge glob of glue on that, because it will be oozing out all over everything, and that is not what we want. So let me get this in right where I want it. Perfect. Very happy with that. Again, I like that liquid glue because I can move it around a little bit if I need to. And this strip is just this tiny bit longer than my card base, so I am just going to take my paper snips and snip that off. There we go. Perfect. Now, the last little bit, I have a piece of ribbon here. I don't know if you can see, it's very glittery, very glittery. And these are in the new annual catalog, and they come in each of the 5 new in colors. So again, this one is Tahitian tied, so I have a piece of that. And then I have a piece of twine. And again, this comes in a package in the new annual catalog, and it has 1 spool of each of the Designer Series colors. Here's the Tahitian tied that I'm using today, and I just cut a piece like twice as long and folded it in half. And you will see why in a moment if you don't already know why. And so now I'm just going to lay these together, and I'm just going to tie a knot in this. So we pull this around, push it through. Oops, easy for me to say, right? Push it through. And I don't know why that it's harder to do it when the camera is watching, right? Harder. I could do this 100 times a day and it'd be fine, but as soon as I hit record, crazy things start happening. Okay, there we go. Got it. Got it, got it. All right. So let me grab a glue dot because I want to adhere this right on here with a glue dot. And here they are. So I am just going to, the glue dot's kind of large and my knot is fairly small. So I am just going to kind of fold up my glue dot here a little bit, make it a little bit smaller so it won't be peeking out from behind my knot. And then I'm just going to take this and smush it right on that glue dot and then pull it off. There we go. And now we can put this on our card right there. And now I want to trim things down a little bit. So this I'm going to trim off pretty short, right about there. And the other side the same. There we are. And finally, I want to trim this. I'm going to let it be just a tiny bit longer. Just a tiny bit longer. There. Now, I want to show you something really cool about this glittery ribbon. You can make it wider. You can pull it apart. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to kind of pull it so it looks like a frayed edge, but I'm also just pulling it apart like all the way down. Can you see? And it just brings more sparkle. It spreads out the sparkle, it brings more sparkle, and makes your card even more fun, even more blingy. So there we have it. Isn't that nice? I just love the way that looks. All right, there's our card. Again, today we're using Tahitian Tide and Calypso Coral. The inside has just a little accent of designer series paper inside. And now let me show you some of the other cards that I made. So as I said, in that package that has the card bases and the envelopes, they're in every one of the 5 new in colors. So this is Tahitian Tide. This one is Orchid Oasis. This one is Parakeet Party. I almost said peacock. Parakeet Party. And this one is the Starry Sky. Let me arrange things a little differently here so you can actually see. Starry Sky and Sweet Sorbet. So there they are. I love these new ink colors. I have a hard time deciding which one is my favorite. Today I am leaning toward the Tahitian Tide. So tell me which one of these is your favorite. Again, I would love to be your demonstrator if you don't already have one. And if you need a catalog, be sure and let me know. Tell me in the comments which one you like best, and I'll be back again soon with another card. Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.